On October 30th, 2025, Princess Beatrice stood before a camera and tried to look composed while her entire world was being officially dismantled on the other side of London. That morning, King Charles made a decision that had not been made in over a century. She has watched her father transform from a decorated war hero into the most controversial figure in the entire history of the British royal family, and she has done it in complete, unbroken silence. Not a single word spoken publicly about the man who built and then burned the York family name to the ground. But silence is not the same as indifference, and at 37 years old, Princess Beatrice is finally running out of road to stay quiet. What she knows about her father is far darker and far more personal than anything the public has yet fully reckoned with. Of British royal history, he stripped his own brother of everything. Every title, every honor, every military rank. The Duke of York title was gone. The rank of prince was gone. The Knight of the Garter, one of the oldest and most prestigious honors in the British monarchy, was revoked. An official eviction notice from Royal Lodge, the Windsor property where Andrew had lived for over 2 decades, was served on the same day. In a single morning, Andrew went from being a prince of the United Kingdom to a private citizen with a criminal investigation hanging over his name. And somewhere in London, a 37-year-old woman who had spent years quietly trying to protect that man's reputation watched it all happen in real time. What followed was one of the most quietly devastating moments in this entire story, and almost nobody reported it properly. Footage emerged of Beatrice and her younger sister Eugenie engaged in what appeared to be an urgent, private conversation that same day. Lip-reading expert Nicola Hickling analyzed the footage and reported what she believed the sisters were saying. Beatrice reportedly told Eugenie, "We are in this together. It is going to get harder. We cannot do anything." And then, in what may be the most revealing line of all, "You are going to need to be out of the country. He is not going to play by the rules, and we need to be out of the way." Eugenie reportedly responded, "Everything is changing." Those are not the words of a daughter who has given up on her father. They are the words of a daughter who has fully accepted the reality of who her father is, who understands that the damage is going to keep spreading, and who is trying to protect her sister and herself from the blast radius while refusing to completely abandon the man who raised them. That tension is what this entire story is about. There is a version of Prince Andrew that the British public has almost entirely forgotten, and it is the version Princess Beatrice was raised to believe in. Understanding it is essential because it explains why she defended him for as long as she did. In the spring of 1982, before Beatrice was born, Andrew was 22 years old and serving as a Sea King helicopter co-pilot aboard HMS Invincible. Argentina had invaded the Falkland Islands, and Britain was going to war. The cabinet in London made a practical calculation. Andrew was second in line to the throne, and the risk of him being killed or captured was one the government did not want to take. They formally asked that he be reassigned to a desk job away from the conflict. Queen Elizabeth said no. She told the government that her son would serve on his ship as any other officer would, and overruled the cabinet personally. What Andrew did in that war was not ceremonial. He flew anti-submarine missions in hostile waters. He performed casualty evacuations under fire. He hovered his helicopter near Royal Navy vessels to act as a decoy for incoming Argentine Exocet missiles, physically placing himself between the enemy's weaponry and his fleet. When the container ship Atlantic conveyor was struck and 26 sailors needed to be pulled from the water, Andrew was part of the crew that rescued them. One of those sailors, Michael Retford, later recalled being told the co-pilot was the Queen's son. He described Andrew as very cool, just like the rest of the helicopter crew. His squadron commander described him in writing as an excellent pilot and a very promising officer. Andrew spoke, in his own words, about the psychological toll of the conflict. He said of the sinking of HMS Sheffield, "For the first 10 minutes, when one really did not know which way to turn, I was very frightened." He described the Atlantic conveyor rescue as something he would never, ever forget. He came home on September 17, 1982, walking down the gangplank at Portsmouth with a red rose between his teeth while crowds lined the harbor. By almost any measure, he was a legitimate hero. Princess Beatrice was born in August 1988. Her father was already this person by the time she arrived. She grew up inside the version of Andrew that existed before the entitlement consumed him, and that version was real. It had witnesses. It had documented proof. Beatrice did not invent her admiration for her father. She inherited it from a country that once genuinely shared it. Royal biographer Andrew Loney spent 4 years researching his 2025 book entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York. He conducted over 300 interviews with people who had direct, personal experience of Andrew behind closed doors. The portrait that emerged was one of the most comprehensive and damning accounts of private royal behavior ever compiled. Staff at Andrew's residences described a man of extraordinary and petty demands. He kept 72 cuddly toys arranged on his bed, many dressed as miniature sailors, positioned in strict size order according to a laminated reference photograph kept on the premises. New employees received a full day of training specifically on how to arrange the toys correctly. If they were placed in the wrong order, Andrew did not quietly correct the mistake. Confirmed to multiple royal correspondents that Andrew's cascading personal scandal was an equally significant factor. The palace had concluded that a high-profile wedding would inevitably become a story about Andrew's disgrace rather than Beatrice's happiness. The only way to give Beatrice the day she deserved was to shrink it until it was almost invisible. Andrew walked his daughter down the aisle. He gave a speech. He was present for every moment that mattered to him as a father. And then he was removed from every official photograph. Royal editor Camilla Tominey put it plainly. There is this sense that unfortunately they have had to erase Andrew and, by association, Fergie from this. Queen Elizabeth offered what comfort she could, lending her granddaughter a remodeled Norman Hartnell gown from 1962 that the Queen had worn herself and kept in her personal collection. She could not undo what Andrew had done, but she could offer the dress from her own wardrobe, and in doing so, she communicated something no public statement could. You are still loved. You are still ours. You are still family. That act of erasure, chosen by Beatrice's own team for Beatrice's own protection, is the closest she has ever come to making a public statement about the cost of being her father's daughter. In the months following Andrew's formal detitling in October 2025, Beatrice did something that surprised royal observers. She kept showing up. In January 2026, she was photographed horseback riding with Andrew in Home Park at Windsor Castle, her 4-year-old daughter Sienna riding alongside them. A source close to the family told The Sun it is completely untrue that she has cut him off. She has seen him several times this year and is supportive. When Beatrice's second daughter, Athena, was christened in December 2025, Andrew attended, kept away from official photographs, but present as a grandfather. Former BBC royal correspondent Jenny Bond offered the most human assessment of Beatrice's position. Beatrice must have known she would very probably be seen out riding with him, so we can take this as an open show of loyalty. It must be incredibly difficult to see your parents so humiliated, isolated, and depressed, and Beatrice, as the older daughter, probably feels a greater responsibility for their well-being. Meanwhile, Beatrice has quietly built a life entirely on her own terms. She works in technology and climate finance, speaks at the World Economic Forum in Davos, and runs her own company, Purpose Economy Intelligence Limited. She is a patron of the Helen Arkell Dyslexia Charity, a cause she has championed with genuine personal passion since being diagnosed with dyslexia as a child. She has taken on 3 additional patronages in the past year, including the Outward Bound Trust, previously held by her father before his titles were stripped. She is performing resilience in public. She is processing betrayal in private. She is raising her children in the shadow of a story that is not finished. She is maintaining contact with a father that the institution she belongs to has formally cast out, and she is doing all of this without saying a single word about any of it to anyone outside the family. For 37 years, silence has been Beatrice's protection. The question that nobody can yet answer is whether that protection will hold or whether there is a version of events still to come that will finally force Andrew's daughter to speak. This story is nowhere near finished, and when it finally does reach its conclusion, Princess Beatrice will be standing at the center of it, whether she chooses to be or not.